Welcome to AEC Stories. This is former SM3 Dempsey of the USS Mount Hood podcast. And this is the Friday Big Guys Perspective. We do them every so often with our great co-host, Big Dave Teresi. How have you been, Dave?
I'm back. I have been better, but I'm doing better. It's up and down sometimes for me. So right now I'm up. We'll see what happens.
That's good. Let's stay up. So we were talking about it's one of our favorite guys, Bosun Johnson's birthday. Happy birthday, Bosun Johnson.
Happy birthday, Bosun Johnson. He's a hell of a guy.
He's a great guy. We talked for 4 hours on the phone. I didn't record him because I had people cutting with saws and stuff in the background, fixing the apartment next door. So I was like, But I got to know him. Did you know that he went in UDT originally?
No, I did not.
That kind of explains some of that hard assery that he came off with, right?
Wow. Yeah, actually, that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah. So he joined. He said, when he was young, he was just a fun, wild guy. We'll have more of him on the podcast. But one thing he told me that just cracked me up, he's like, yeah, I was kind of a class clown, even though he went to a very high level high school, a lot of intelligent kids there. He wasn't really pushing his limits yet until he got in the Navy. But he said he used to go in the bathroom and draw a ship on his chest with a magic marker, and then go into the classroom and reveal it to the girls. Look at me.
Dude, that is classic. That would be funny stuff to do.
That sounds like Animal House all day long.
Yes, it does.
But he went into UDT, underwater demolition training, in Little Creek, Virginia, back in the day. And
there's only two places to do that.
Oh yeah, that's before the SEAL program was big and stuff, like 1970, I guess.
Well, that was one of the precursors to it.
Yeah, the Frogmen and the guys that did underwater bombs, put bombs on ships or dealt with explosives and stuff like that. Yeah. EOD type stuff, explosive ordnance disposal. But
some of the first guys to do that in the Navy, actually, one of their first assignments was to map the beaches for D-Day. And they did it with swim shorts, fins, a mask, and a snorkel is how they did it.
Yeah.
And those guys had some balls. That water's not very warm over there.
He said it was really rough training, but they also had him playing football at the same time. And that's where he messed up his ankle or his knee. And so then he ended up back in the fleet. And he was enlisted first before he became a warrant officer.
Well, most people are.
Oh, yeah. He spent a lot of time in Italy, so we had a lot of reminiscing about Italy because he loved it over there.
Yeah. That's where Zemer's now. I talked to him a bit last night.
Yeah. He's I talked to him a lot. I always like to catch up his notes on the podcast. Yeah. He's listening diligently because when you live in Italy, there's nothing more interesting than AEC stories. It's our weekly class reunion on the internet audio storyline.
Yeah.
See where we all landed, right?
Yeah. I guess he's got 2 years left over there. And then he wasn't quite sure, but he may be back in Seattle by Seattle. So.
Yeah, he's got it made. Working Department of Defense job. I mean, that's a pretty good lifestyle. I know my dad did it.
He holds preference for his old position back as harbor master. That's not a bad job up there. There's a lot of shipping traffic up there.
What does a harbor master do?
Harbor master basically ensures the safety of the ships coming and going and where they're going to be berthed and, the logistics of everything, basically.
Kind of like the air traffic controller of ships.
Exactly.
Except the water traffic controller of boats. There we go.
And I don't think there's as big of a cocaine addiction issue with harbor masters as there is with air traffic controllers.
Slower moving objects. You're not trying to land a bunch of planes. You ever see that movie with, I'm trying to think, John something. He was in a lot of 80s, 90s movies, but they were all Pushing Tin. You ever hear that movie?
John Cusack.
John Cusack, yeah, Pushing Tin. Yeah. And you kind of see the life of air traffic controller. I met one the other day. I go, how do you like doing it? She's like, it's cool. but she does a small airport. She's not running the big SFO or something,
There is a story, this guy, I'll find it and send it to you. It's an audio clip from YouTube about an SR-21 pilot talking about listening to the radios. They're out flying around getting airtime. He was over somewhere in Arizona, but he could see the coast off Los Angeles from as high as they were. And he's talking about, you hear a guy in a little Cessna get on the radio asking, what his ground airspeed was. And it was like 92 knots or something like that. Then a guy comes in with gets on there with like a little turboprop and was asking his speed. It was like 170 knots. And then a commercial airline that got on, it was like something like, 400 knots. And he says, and then all of a sudden, he says, from my back seat, I hear the click of the radio from my co-pilot. And he says, usually his co-pilot never says anything. And he gets on and he gives their call sign and asks what their ground airspeed was. And then, we've got you 1,722 knots. And he said, after that, nobody else came on the radio. It's like, we win.
Going at a high speed clip at 92 knots, man. Oh, whoops.
Yeah. Little Cessna pilot probably just aimed his plane for the ground at that point.
He still couldn't go that fast, even if he went to ground full speed. Nope. Yeah. Couldn't even hit that.
It's a funny story. And it's like he's talking in front of a, fairly good sized audience, telling stories about, his days as a pilot and those things. It was the fastest plane in the air for a long, long time.
I used to have to know planes. I don't remember them. I remember ships somewhat.
Right.
I used to have to identify this stuff, and it's like, what's that? Right. Shwoom! That's fast. Yeah. It's dangerous.
Like Darren Driver, he was on starboard lookout one time. All of a sudden, you hear this over the sound powered headsets. You hear this yo bridge, and then boom, you hear this sonic boom, a plane. It just from one of the aircraft comes down just right at our bridge level and just supersonics it right past us. It hits the sound barrier, and so you see the big flare of the cloud that comes out when they do that. But he couldn't say it fast enough to reveal the contact, and nobody had picked it up because the guy was flying so low. He wasn't a couple hundred feet above the water, and then just yo bridge. Boom, a plane, and it was gone. You couldn't see it.
we had like our own air show, I think, one time during the Westpac. Basically, a whole bunch of battle group was out there, and they were flying jets at speed of sound and all that other stuff, sonic booms. It was badass.
Yeah. That's when I think they did the big pictures. So we had to do that big picture thing of all the ships. It was like two battle groups together.
We had an air show, a gun show, everything show, man. Yeah. It was pretty cool.
Remember the planes were dropping those little flash bombs that hit the water and they'd explode. They weren't meant for combat, but they were basically for show and for training. Was that the same one, you think? Because I was up on the signal watching that. Yeah.
Yeah, Signal Bridge was great. It was a great watching place. Like I said in other podcasts, though, our Signal Bridge was beautiful, but I did a podcast that came out today with SM3 from 1973, and he was telling me that the Signal Bridge I had didn't exist then. They had a tiny little phone booth size shack. Well, not a phone booth, but a little tiny backyard shed size shack. And it was aft of where my office was.
That was the helicopter tower where they do all the helicopter comms from.
Possibly.
Yeah, that was the old signal shack.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. So then that was the old signal shack, and then they built a superstructure. They built some more, structure. They built a whole deck. They put the ship's TV station, an aft signal office, and a forward signal bridge that was just beautiful. I liked it better than the signal bridge I went to on the Carrier when I was on the Ranger, but the Ranger's old. Yeah. So it's different, man. I mean, it was luxury. I was on the Cadillac and I was bitching about that. I didn't know it. Try being on a frigate. And you're sitting on the bridge with everybody. Yeah. Get out there with your flags, boy. Wave some flags.
Did you see where they finally got the final approval to scrap the Kitty Hawk?
I didn't see that. No.
Yeah, it was been in the news last week. They're going to finally just tear it apart. Just like they did to our boat. We'll be
yeah, they get turned into razor blades, so we have to make a podcast just to prove that we existed, right?
That's right. Well,
the Navy doesn't try. You're not going to scrap our podcast. We'll be talking 200 years from now. You're going to be listening. Whoever's listening to this in 200 years is probably going to be on their magic laser carpet floating around with their special video helmet going, oh, yeah. Wow, I wonder what that was like to be on a boat with no lasers and stuff. That's what I think will come across. Go on.
If you haven't seen that, man, that thing's cool.
That's pretty groovy, man. So, where'd you go, sir? Did your microphone go up here?
Well, I was chewing a cracker, so I moved my mic away from my face.
We like the cracker noises.
Yeah?
I don't know who I was talking to the other day. Paint thinner keeps coming out. Remember that paint thinner that get everybody so high?
Yeah.
That was worse than airplane glue?
Yeah. Yeah.
What was the name of that stuff?
I don't know. It's just general purpose paint thinner is what the can said.
Like JP5 or some name like that.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, I remember a couple guys they didn't have respirators on, and they were like they were painting the mess decks, which is an enclosed area, and they were loonier than a couple of jaybirds. I mean, they were talking crazy talk. They sounded like a couple of like hobos that were drunk off, drinking aftershave.
You got to remember, I ran the paint locker for like 6 months, so I sat inside that thing all day. I know what that stuff do to you.
So what were you thinking? I mean, I'm running the paint locker. When I get out, I've been trained to work at Home Depot. I'm looking forward to my career prospects.
Not at that time. I was thinking, this is cool because I don't have to go out and paint and rust, clean it up. I do know that I'm not running a needle gun right now.
Right.
It was one of the skate jobs you wanted to get. You only got it if they liked you,
It's better to sling the paint than carry it up to the top of the signal bridge.
Yeah, I'm right.
That's that much.
Yep.
Did you have to paint the anchor at any point? Was that an initiation thing? I heard of a couple other guys, they did that too.
I actually I only ever went over the side in a bosun chair one time. And Howlett, Hazlitt, he was the duty guy that day. And none of the new guys, they were all scared. I'm like, fine, I'll go over. He's like, dude, you're the biggest guy ever. I'm like, well, you better have more of these guys to pull me up. Well, I don't know if it was due to the weight or what, but when I went over in the thing, I went into like super spins. The chair was spinning and spinning and spinning, and I couldn't get it to stop anyway. So they actually had to lower me. They couldn't pull me up. They had to lower me all the way down to, there was like this is over in San Francisco. Next to the pier in the water, there was like a log bridge, or log raft that was floating on top. They had to lower me down to that. Well, it was, when they got more, it actually turns out that this thing's like 8 feet away from me. So I'm just right over the water. And I'm like, if you let me in this water, I said, I will kill every one of you. So they started to swing me towards the ship, and then I had to push off with my feet enough to swing out. And then they just dropped the line. So I went down really fast, and I got onto that log raft, and then I could climb up the ladder back onto the boat. That was
that's interesting.
Only experience.
I was trying to figure out how many stories high was the main deck, like off the. Yeah, I mean, in dry dock it's different. It looks like it's like 10 stories high.
It is probably 4, maybe
4 from the water line, right?
Yeah, 3 to 4. Yeah.
So you get exposed to some things.
Well, if you think about it, if you picture it from, if you're standing at the aft of the ship and you look up at the flight deck, you see there was after steering, was the first deck. Well, not technically, there's down below where the shaft is. And then there's after steering. And then there's the second division was the back, we were back on the fantail. And then above that was the flight deck, which rolls into the main deck. So, what? So 3 stories, yeah.
It's interesting
4.
because
So it would have been 4. I guess it would have been the 4th story. So yeah, 4.
Well, I mean, with where we put all the munitions all the way to the bottom of the ship to the top, I was trying to figure out how many stories is that? Like how many decks below did the elevator go?
3.
3? It went down 3?
Yes.
And you were down 1, so it went 2 below you.
Right.
So the bottom is 1, 2, you're 3, come up is 4 on the flight deck.
Well, no, that would have been the main
5,
main deck.
6, 7, 8. About 8 stories high at the signal bridge.
Yeah.
Give or take.
That's it.
So, okay. So
we were up pretty good. You notice, we were always, when we would unwrap, you could tell how much taller we were than everybody else.
That's true.
The only thing,
but when I first came to the ship, go ahead.
The only ship that was taller was a carrier. The Oilers, we were
That's true.
pretty much the same height. The FS, we were same as them.
It was interesting because, you talk about height, and I don't know. I remember watching that strange movie, Wolfen, about the werewolf in San Francisco years ago.
Yeah.
And they were after like this Indian guy that turned into the werewolf, and like, what kind of work does he do? Oh, he works in high steel. I'm like, what's high steel? That sounds intriguing. Sounds manly. Basically, he worked on the top of like the Golden Gate Bridge, on the top of that stuff, right? Real high stuff.
Those guys.
Well,
I'm bored.
Right?
Yeah, I'm not interested in climbing anything that tall.
Well, let me tell you something. Part of my preventative maintenance duties as a signalman, I had to climb on top of the yard arm and go all the way out to the end of it and change the light bulb in the infrared Morse code light.
Oh, yeah?
Okay. And I didn't mind it, actually. I didn't mind it. I was up there having a smoke. I was trying to walk, and they have a railing. Here's the problem. The railing's made out of fiberglass and it's brittle. And I got my little, rope with a hook tied to a harness. Yeah. Soap on a rope. Yeah. That's what I got. I'm climbing the yard arm. Yeah. Rope on a, anyways, I got my rope a dope going on
out there.
I have my safety harness, and I'm like, what the hell difference does it make if I put it on this friggin' railing? I'm going to fall and it's going to break it, and I'm just going to die quicker.
Right.
So let me carry it so I can lasso it over the main part of the yard arm, whatever. So I would just go out of there unhooked and change it and sit up there and have a smoke. Being in dry dock, that was like, I'd venture to say about 12 stories high.
Yeah.
Yeah. About 12 stories high, especially if you look at the photos. And I was just teetering on the edge like it was no big deal. I'm like, well, it's the Navy. You just do manly things. But, certain things, I've talked to my airborne friends, because when I was a kid, I used to jump out of jump towers. They let me use their jump towers. Mm-hmm. I just thought it was a cool zip line thing. You jump out of like 6 stories.
Yeah.
And you have a rig and it catches, and then you zip down. And I thought it was just fun, like a carnival ride. But there were some guys, when they tried to go to airborne school, they would be terrified. I talked to Sonny Bliss about it.
Yeah.
And then I thought back to other people who hadn't, fear of heights. You remember drown proofing in boot camp, how terrified guys would get on that jump that didn't know how to swim?
Yeah.
Imagine how scary that must be if you don't know how to swim.
Or, yeah. I can imagine. Because there was a lot.
Right.
And that always just kind of baffled me, is how many guys go into the Navy that can't swim. It's like, look, your odds of going out on the water are pretty high.
Right?
Exactly.
That was like, I thought it would be mandatory that you know how to swim to join the Navy.
Yeah.
Non-swimmers join the Army.
Well, it'd be like joining the Army if you can't run or march, you got problems with your legs. Just doesn't make sense.
It's so interesting, like what each military had. Like, you're in the Army, you're shooting your guns more, you're doing more infantry training. You're doing more of what people see in those combat movies. Yeah. And then we're on a ship. Yeah. And we have like guard watch, or if you're on the quick reaction force for any kind of emergency on the ship, you get a shotgun and a flak jacket.
I was on the security force. I had the M14.
You had the M14. Yeah, I was talking to DeBordy about it. He was like, yeah, it was really cool till we had to stand like a 12, 14 day watch for something that may or may not have happened in Oakland. I'm not saying what it was. You know what I'm talking about? Right? Wink, wink to all that know. And I can neither confirm or deny.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right.
Hey, all I'm going to say is it was justified.
Yeah, it was groovy. And that's the thing. I mean, when I think about it, the more I do the podcast, everybody we were so compartmentalized and we weren't talking to each other about what we were doing that day because it was just part of the job.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't running down the deck and sharing comms with you guys, and you guys weren't telling me about what munitions you were loading.
Yeah, and I wasn't coming up to borrow flags.
Out of toilet paper. Can I borrow an Oscar flag? Yeah, I can't see that. Kind of low on blankets. Can we use a couple of these flags? Kind of sew them together, make a quilt? That'd be nice.
Actually, you know what? That would actually be kind of a cool quilt. Get a bunch of smaller flags, all of them together. That would be kind of a cool thing.
We've just invented our new business. This is Signalman blankets.
It was copyrighted, by the way.
Yeah, copywritten by Dave Inc., Big Dave's Incorporation of the Navy.
Hey, hang on one second.
But yeah, sure.
Yeah, I know you're. Hang on, I'm gonna yell. I'm gonna shut up. Okay,
you're back.
Yeah,
move that microphone a little closer so I can hear those deep baritone notes. Like now that I'm playing with this,
and he's talking shit. It's what he does. I don't know where he gets it. Probably his mother.
It's all about Dad.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard him. He's like, I'm a clone of you. Oh,
that's good.
Yeah, but he was a big hit at the reunion. Everybody wanted to hang out with him.
That's like Dave Light. Diet Dave. Here, let me hang out with Diet Dave.
Well, even
that's pretty groovy, man.
His sister argued with her mother about a picture, and his sister swore.
Can you move your mic closer, sir?
His sister swore that the picture was her brother it was a picture of me and Mike Wagner. And Jessica argued with her mom about, that's my brother. Mom, I know what my brother looks like. That's him. And she's like, Jessica, she goes, that's your father when he was in the Navy. Well, and then there was another picture, and it was one taken from a little bit of a distance. And this is back when I was in pretty good shape. Jessica's like, hey, Mom, who's that guy? He's kind of hot. She's like, Jessica, that's your dad. Oh, God.
Gross.
Yeah.
Grody to the max. Right.
Yeah.
That's how it happens.
Yeah.
It's interesting though. It's just doing all this podcasting up. This is like, I think episode 30 that I'm doing with you right now.
That's pretty good.
I have bench pressed a lot of podcasts, man. I'm trying to get to 100.
Yeah.
There's like 900 something people and listen to you that have not come on my podcast yet. We want you, a la Uncle Sam style recruitment poster.
Yeah.
I get 998 people.
Yeah.
I'm getting like over 100 something downloads per episode. That needs to be 900 shipmates supporting the podcast. Damn it.
Well,
that's, you know what I mean?
That's just two cycles. That's just 2 cycles of, full rotations, basically.
Yeah. And there was, I don't know how many cycles was on the Mount Hood. I estimate there's probably 3,700 people that served on that ship.
Probably.
That's my math, crazy math.
Well, right? If you add in all the air detachments and everything, they always, they bring 30 to 50 people per detachment. Yeah. So, and then the EOD.
It is interesting.
Yeah. We had all the EOD guys on board, 5 guys.
There's a picture. One of the guys I used to work out with, I didn't realize he was Johnny Hairstyle so much.
Oh yeah.
He looked like a young Elvis, the EOD man. That was a funny thing about Elvis. I don't know if Elvis made a Navy movie, but Elvis back in his heyday, I used to watch them for entertainment. Like, oh, it's an Elvis movie. Hey, baby, going to go on a Windad race. And he's a race car driver in this movie. Okay, make a song about it. It's kind of like the Will Smith formula. Make a song, make a movie.
Have you seen any of the videos of Johnny Cash impersonating Elvis? Okay, they're
no, I didn't.
He is so good at it. It's just, they're funnier than hell. You got to look him up on YouTube. Just look up Johnny Cash does Elvis. They're great.
I definitely will. I think it's funny. I mean, just watching his movies. Okay, in this movie, he's a diver in Mexico. He dives off. He's a cliff diver, lifeguard guy, and he has a romantic interest. Hey, baby, going to jump off that hill.
I remember the movie because he wore those white shorts in the whole thing. It's like, wow.
He might have been in the Navy in one. We got to find out. There's not enough, here's a good topic. Navy movies. Have you seen The Last Detail?
Yes. Jack Nicholson?
No,
that was.
Yeah, Jack Nicholson, the signalman. Yeah.
Yeah. Was that? There was
him and the
Cinderella Liberty. Another good one.
That was James Caan, right? James Caan, Cinderella Liberty.
Yeah. There was Mr. Roberts' Navy. Mr. Rogers' Navy. No, Mr. Roberts' Navy.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Roberts' Navy. There was, what was the one about the pink submarine? Oh, yeah, I can't remember.
Sounds like one of your adult movies.
Yeah. I'm going to redo that one. There was.
I'm going to watch the pink. Everyone's down at the adult bookstore renting the pink submarine today. Okay.
There was Mr. Limpet with Don Knotts was a fish. He was voicing this fish and it had to do with the submarine, but it was, a Navy movie. Well, then Midway, then Tora, PT 109.
Das Boot.
Das Boot. That was a good movie, actually.
The submarines get some of the best made movies, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Submarines, Hunt for Red October.
Oh, I love Hunt for Red October. Yeah, that's a good look there.
Sean Connery really plays a good sailor.
Yes, he does.
He sure does. I just like people that imitate us. Let's compliment the people that imitate us. No. But what was the Cinderella Liberty and The Last Detail? Mm-hmm. I felt Cinderella Liberty really, you know what I felt that it captured the part of the movie? Some of the despair and some of the boring, mundane middle parts of the Navy when you're just like, I got $5 and I'm stuck downtown Oakland and I got nothing. Yeah. It's an industrial area. And tomorrow I got to go to work and I got nothing. That kind of stuff, it captured that. It's slow in parts a lot. And he's like trying to help out some chick and a kid and he's trying to set a good example, but whatever.
Yeah.
But then you've got like, the other movie, which I played part of where I had a prisoner and I let him go out and have dinner out, off the ship and shit. Yeah. But, that movie with Jack Nicholson, I think that really captured the vibe of what I thought the Navy was growing up, like in the 70s or something.
Yeah, probably was.
Well, yeah.
You think about in LA, they had, remember the Zoot Suit riots in LA back in
the
50s, I think. And that was started because a couple guys from the Navy stabbed, a Zoot Suiter, and that's what started that big mess. That was it was a big deal. It changed a lot of things for the Navy. That was real life.
Yeah, the Navy was closer to pirates back in the day. They would all carry blades, and it was acceptable.
Yeah.
It was like acceptable to be shanking people on Liberty.
Men of Honor.
Huh?
Men of Honor with Cuba Gooding and De Niro.
De Niro.
Was it a
great movie?
Yeah, that was a good movie. Where he was the Navy diver. That was a good movie.
Yeah, that was a tough gig.
Yeah. De Niro kept going into
that was struggling through adversity and racism and everything.
Yeah. And
that's a real guy though.
Yeah. The one officer that, just tried to hold him back through everything. And he'd never dove a day in his life, but rewrote the rules and regs for it. I mean, you can't have that. You can't have somebody that's never laid their hands on something write the rules and regulations for it because they truly don't know anything about it.
Yeah, that's like you're the manager, but you've never touched the machine.
Right.
That doesn't work. And you got to have hands on and you got to have product knowledge about whatever you do. And that was a cool thing about going back to Bosun. It's like that guy knew how to do everything that he told anybody to do. He could lead by example.
Well, and he thinks that
was the key.
Thinks he's too hard on people, but he taught everybody the way that he knew how to do it. We never had any accidents. We never lost any ammunition, and everything always worked out great. We were the best at what we did the entire time we were there with him. Yeah, we were the best ship doing what we did. And it's because of the way that he trained us. I mean, the guy has nothing to feel bad about, too hard. Some people are more sensitive than others. Maybe they didn't like him, but you know what? That person didn't get hurt. They're just bitching to bitch. He did the best he could.
Well, yeah, I mean, you might go through it. You could have grown up a charmed life in a perfect high school where you were popular, girls liked you, everybody got along with you, you never had a bully, you never had a fight. Mm-hmm. And then you show up in the Navy and you have Captain Hardass ready to throw down, and he's, and I really like him. I talk to him. I get to know him. Like, what a great dude. But I understood him because I've owned businesses and I know what it's like to be on time, to be prompt, to get it done right, and not to delegate or depend on somebody if you can anticipate they're going to screw up and all those things. And, I look at, he said, I had what he told me is like, I had an issue with being overly competitive, but by virtue of being that way, you manifested excellent results.
Yeah. And
so in the end, everybody should be happy they got their life.
Turned a lot of
they might get yelled at, but
he turned a lot of young boys into fucking great men. He's responsible for a lot of that.
That's true.
Yeah. And so, he needs to be proud of that.
On the flip side, would you look back and say, well, I'm in a huge, super dangerous environment. I talked to something about Zemer told me like on other ships, something happened where some guy got caught and his whole body got squished out on an elevator, not following proper safety protocol. Not our ship. Right. I think someone on our ship got their leg cut off by one of the lines.
I don't know about that. I never heard that story, but I know there was an old story about a yard worker that supposedly got killed by one of the elevators on the hood, but nobody knows. That's just one of those stories that floats around forever. So who knows? Well,
basically the whole thing is there's no room for screwing around when you're working in that high danger environment. Same as even on the civilian side about those deep sea fishing guys that do the deadliest catch. I mean, it's a deadly environment. Right. Same with our ship was too. If you don't do it right.
Our ship was nothing but dangerous stuff from what we carried to how we transferred it. Plus we transferred fuel for aircraft and for the ships. So, I mean, we had every possibility of things going horribly wrong, but didn't. The worst accident on board while I was on there was when the main SSTG generator blew up and blew the shaft through the bulkhead. We were at general quarters for almost 20 hours until they got to take care of it, and then we floated. We just kind of drifted for a couple of days, but we were actually on our way back from Hawaii when that happened. So,
what was that? The propeller? What's the shaft? The shaft related to the rudder or the rudder?
No, this was like one of the main generators for the ship blew up.
Okay,
and so we just lost everything. At the time, the rudder issue,
DIW, dead in the water.
The rudder issue was from just over time, all the barnacles and stuff on it had basically eaten through small enough holes in the rudder to where the rudder filled up with water. Well, when the rudder got so heavy in rough seas, it just, it snapped the main steering gear. And those aren't things that they just, the Navy Yard just has on hand. Basically it had to be made from scratch.
Wow. So were you guys towed back to San Francisco or what happened?
We actually made it under our own power into the Philippines, and we were dry docked in the Philippines.
Was this in 89? Yeah. I don't recall that. See, I don't know why I was either mess cooking or something where I was so preoccupied I didn't remember that happening. Yeah. But I was on the ship when that happened. I didn't know that. You remember
them cutting the big hole in the flight deck and down through second division, the outpost and locker, so they could get into the after steering gear?
Yeah, we stayed in the Philippines for 3 months. Lived like a bunch of young gentlemen. Yes. Yeah, definitely.
That's exactly what happened.
Yeah, we went to gentleman's school in manners, politeness.
It's a finishing school. They sending us to
Fishing school. You might as well. It's like going to Stanford and equestrian riding, and I'm being sarcastic.
Really?
Sure, that wasn't kind of writing we did out there. But, didn't it happen another time before I came on the ship in between Hawaii and San Francisco where you guys were DIW, like something blew up out there? That was the generator. Okay, so not to mix the two. One was the rudder, but the generator, you said it blew something through the bulkhead, something came through the wall?
Said that, yeah, I never actually made it down there that night, but that's what we were told. I know it blew the shaft of the generator out of the machine. Just that's not something you could just fix. They had to get a whole new thing put in.
So did you guys finally get underway from being floating in between California and Hawaii? On your own power, we fixed it out at sea.
Fixed things enough.
So that brings back another big thing about the Navy is that you had to be self-sufficient. We had to be firefighter trained like mad dogs. We had to be able to repair holes in the side of the ship, not us per se, but the
repair locker,
ECHT types.
All damage.
Repair locker. We had to help prevent it, like watertight compartmentalization, whatever. Watertight integrity.
And that's what rough trade was all about. It was going down, and then they evaluate to make sure that each repair locker knows exactly what to do, in case damage is done to the ship under any circumstance. That's what rough trade is all about. That's where,
That's so true. You're trained up, though. You're trained up to be self-sufficient. I mean, who's going to come save you if you get a fire? The fireman boats? Nope. Who's going to come save you on your ship? Are they going to bring some firefighters from land that aren't trained in shipboard firefighting?
Think about it. If you're out at sea and something happens, it's not like you can just leave. Where the hell are you going to go? In the water? How long you last down there?
You're going to pull into a repair shop?
Yeah, you got to deal with it yourself. And that, and being able to deal with that kind of stuff yourself helps you later in life. Just deal with anything else. It's like, well, shit, I don't need somebody else to do it. I can do it.
Well, I got to give credit to some badass dudes that were there that, fixed that stuff in the middle of the sea. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, it's like, I don't remember which ship it was that got hit over in the Gulf. I don't remember if it was Stark, but we were deployed at that time, or if it was one of the ones after that where the boat, the little speedboat rammed into it with explosives. One of those, the ship basically cracked in half, and I don't know if it was a chief postmate or senior chief postmate, they took one of the cables off their unrep rig and basically wrapped it around the superstructure. And that's what kept the boat from, breaking in two. That was some.
Yeah, I saw something recently where how they did something. They welded something to keep the ship from falling in half recently, right? Yeah. Is that what you're talking about, or something?
No, this was in the 90s.
I saw a picture of it.
This was back in the 90s, I believe.
Okay.
Or maybe, I don't know. It might have been after the 90s. I don't remember exactly when it was. I know it was after. It was right. It was after I got out, I believe. But I'd watched the news story about it. And then I read about it in a Navy forum thing on it later on. Chewie, get off my computer. Damn it. Fuck. Damn cat. I don't know why. This cat always thinks she has to stand on my computer.
That makes a fun part of the podcast. Yes.
But anyways, they just
fantastic.
They use the cables from the ship and I think they use the foul weather cables too, because those are steel. And they just wrapped them all around the superstructure and held it together long enough to get into dry dock.
Wow. Is it your birthday today?
Mine? No.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, that's weird. Mark Hildebrand posted on your Facebook.
Did he really?
Yeah. He wrote "Happy birthday, fucker." That's cool.
Well, I posted on Bosun's. Is that your phone?
Yeah, they still podcast on this. I keep getting calls. I don't know what the emergency is. If you get to borrow $5, you can have $5. But
no, it would be 5.
No, it's just good. It's just good to
$7.50. The old slush.
Yeah, 5 for $7.50. Slush funds. Definitely. Well, it's good to have you back on the podcast and just get talking some babies.
Yeah, I'm glad to be back.
You know,
so
I'm gonna get you on here. And my friend wants me to, with this new cartoon software I'm playing with, to have the talking version of the podcast.
Yeah.
He wants me to make like an ogre version of you.
That'll work.
He goes, "Yeah, I want to see what you do with Dave Teresi."
Version, but I still want to do it where we do the superheroes, and I want to be Wonder Woman. Damn it.
Okay, that sounds good. I'm really debating on buying this, man. I'm telling you, if I get this shit, it's going to be exciting. But since you've got some episodes to catch up on, and then we will review them, and that's what I want you to do for our next podcast. It's just a warm up. But listen to him. We get the Seabees guy. You hear what the Seabees life was like. He retired to the Seabees.
Yeah, my dad was a Seabee.
And he's a cool dude.
Yeah.
And he was a comedian.
Oh, really?
He's a stand-up comic, lives in LA. And, he was on the last episode. Got Krause on there, Terry Krause. Got,
D'Angelo.
a couple of, guys from the early 70s. The guys that were in the Vietnam era on the Mount Hood.
You got D'Angelo on there.
So there's some good stuff.
Zemer.
D'Angelo, yeah. Zemer.
Yeah.
So I need to review the podcast. That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
I wanted D'Angelo's hilarious. He's like Dice Clay.
Still need to get the guys I went to high school with. Jimmy, he was a corpsman, and then Jeff Bowman was a pilot, fighter pilot. Both of them want to do one, so I still got to get with them and get that done. So those will be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all good stuff. So basically, we got to get those guys on there, and I got to have you. I got to do the podcast review with you. Right. I want to get your feedback. What did you think? What did that make you think about? Because I think that's a good talking point for a Friday episode. And we got more stuff there. I mean, as short of a time as our time was in the Navy, it seems like a lifetime. And I was only in 6 years. You were in for 4. Yeah. But why is it such a huge part of the next 30 years? That's the weird part about it.
Pat and I talked about that. We actually talked about it quite a bit. And it's probably because you did the most growing up you've ever done in that period of time. So
true. And not just that, but I had perspective when I talked to DeBordy the other night, and I was like, you know what? Where have you been since you got out? I told him, I used to travel the world when I was a military brat. Yeah. And then later when I was in the Navy, I said, I was traveling the world. And I go, I haven't left the United States since 1993. Right. Haven't even gone to Canada or Mexico. But back then I used to go Mexico, Canada, China, Hong Kong, Europe. Yeah. I went everywhere. I went to Europe even when I was in the Navy. I went and flew over there for leave. My parents lived there. So I went back to Italy on 2 weeks leave. So it's like, I did. It was cool. Had to get, ran into some old, naughty friends and might have accidentally or not accidentally smoked some hash. Uh-oh. But, luckily I was clean when I came home.
I hate it when that happens.
I think maybe. Yeah. I don't remember, but I do not recall.
Yeah, somebody told me.
And either confirm or deny that we were.
Somebody told me this happened. So,
when I talk to some of the guys, and I don't put on the cast, but some of the behind the bosun locker stories, there was a whole lot of shillelagh swinging going on back in the 70s.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But you know what? That was then. They didn't have the technology and the organization. I felt when I was back in the Navy, and I was a kid in high school. I'd go on the Navy base, and then I watched like Cinderella Liberty. It made me feel like you're a sailor. You're on your own, son. Like you're kind of attached to something, but nothing at all until you're back on the ship, and then that's your team. And if you go on Liberty with your friends, was normal. But if you're out there by yourself, you're like in the middle of nowhere, attached to nothing. It didn't seem as structured as the Army for some reason.
We were talking about old Navy movies. There was one I watched here recently. Steve McQueen was in it, and they were over in China, and they're on And so it was like an old yacht that they converted into a river patrol boat for the Navy when we were over there, and all the stuff that happened. I can't remember the name of the movie, but
oh, you're talking about Sand Pebbles.
yes, I am.
Steve McQueen. He's over in like China.
When I was watching it, I was talking to you. I told you about it the day I was watching it. Yeah. That was a good one.
It was a pretty good movie. He was over at that cat house and doing his thing and trying to deal with some people that were bad guys. There were some bar fights or something in that movie, if I recall. Yeah, but he was like a BT or something, right? A boiler tech that was in charge of the ship.
I think he was like the head machinist mate or something. But everybody kind of looked to him for just about everything. So
that's what you watch the movie like. Is my rate going to make the cut? They made Jack Nicholson a signalman.
Yep.
I'm like, we make good movies when we're not waving flags. But so Veterans Day is over. Happy Veterans Day to everybody once again.
Thank you, everybody.
Wait till next year. There's some more free pancakes waiting for you over there somewhere.
Or a small order of wings.
But hey, you can now, a little small sampler platter of wings. It's just like going to Costco.
That's right.
But I was gonna tell you? Lost in thought, deep Navy thoughts. They just take me places. It's just good to have you back, though, Dave. But we're going to make this one a little shorter today, but I'll put this out Friday. And Dave's back, everybody. Send him some messages.
Or money.
How much you love the podcast. Or money. Or donate money to Dave. Yeah. And he wants to go out and buy a new pair of fishing boots or something.
Perhaps. You get me a sit-down scooter where I need to get.
Sit down scuba diving suit?
A scooter,
a scooter.
Yep.
No, I just need to get you walking. Well, we'll do some more later, but thanks for coming on today, Big Dave. You're very maybe good to have you as a guest. Well, we'll do some more later, but thanks for coming on today, Big Dave.